As the new Congress is seated, the Democratic-controlled House has passed this rules package along party lines, and it has Republicans in a serious uproar. They say their ability to fight back against legislation has now been silenced, and on top of that, they're eliminating the so-called gendered language. The Heritage Foundation's Genevieve Wood joins me now. Genevieve, some are really saying this is an amazing power grab. So let's just start with a few things that stand out. One, the motion to recommit. What is this? Why is it so important?
Well, it allows, Charles, the minority party, which Democrats have been in before, but now Republicans are, to challenge a piece of legislation before it comes to the floor and say, I'd like to insert this amendment. I'd like to send it back to committee and have a new debate. Basically, Nancy Pelosi has come in and said, we're going to get rid of that recommit rule. We'll maybe send it back to committee, but we're not going to have any time for debate, which basically means it just goes to the House floor for a vote. So there's no opportunity for the minority to ever change anything the majority is basically putting forward. And, it's interesting, Charles, because I think Nancy Pelosi, she's got a very razor thin margin in the House. And this is the kind of thing people do when they're scared. The dictators kind of call in the military. She's to surround them. She's called in all these new rules to protect her and her very slim majority. And what she's scared of is not Republicans. It's clearly the far left. If you look at these rules, if you look at this gender language thing they talked about, it's very clear who she's scared of.
It's interesting you bring that up because I saw a tweet from AOC. And by the way, this tweet was unbridled delight. And she said that PAYGO was removed from Green New Deal agenda proposals. And I'm scratching my head like, who did this? She had a huge a bunch of likes. But it's back to your point. She's allowing them to get away with certain things. What does it mean? I mean, the PAYGO, getting rid of the PAYGO, does that just sort of green light any kind of Green New Deal initiative?
Well, yeah, basically what they did, PAYGO is a rule that says if you introduce legislation that's going to increase the budget deficit, require new resources, you got to find a way to pay for it. Well, in this case, she said, if it deals with the climate, we don't have to do that. And if it deals with anything related to COVID-19, you don't have to do that. Well, you can imagine with COVID, people can connect anything to that. So basically, they're going to try to use that to push through the Green New Deal. They're going to try to use it to push through things like Medicare for All, which we know end up being basically great, not so great health care for really anybody. That's the kind of thing they're going to try to push through. But Charles, they're going to try to censor social media by members of Congress. She's going to try to play, at Jack at Twitter and tell people what's appropriate, what's not. Who's going to decide those things? They're putting in an Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which will basically be quotas for Hill staff. And she wants to increase congressional oversight. They want to be able to increase their powers to bring people before congressional committees. Is that really what we need Congress doing more of? I don't think so.
Yeah, Democrats are giving themselves more power, taking away the voice and power from the Republicans who are now the minority. I've got a little bit of time, but you hit on this earlier, the eliminating terms like father, son, mother, daughter, grandmother, grandfather. What's the point? And by the way, how will people even greet each other in the halls of Congress?
Well, as one of my colleagues noted, if you look at Nancy Pelosi's Twitter handle and her description of who she is, she says mother and grandmother. She better get rid of that stuff because apparently now members of Congress can't use that language. It's ludicrous, Charles. This is not what the American people voted for. And as you know, the House of Representatives is supposed to be called the People's House. I don't think that's what the people of America are wanting their elected officials to focus on.
I think everyone in Congress got to learn the old Spock salute. Just, live free and maybe not prosper, but certainly tax everyone. Genevieve, you're one of my favorites. Happy New Year. I'm glad you can make it on the show today.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you, Charles.